listening to Loud on the Set with Kyle and James. It'll either be a complete disaster or leave you erupting with laughter. And action!
All right, welcome back to the show. My name is Kyle.
This is James.
And today we have a special guest joining us. Introduce yourself, miss.
Hello, my name is Jennifer, and I am lucky or unlucky enough to work with these two saps.
Yay! And she agreed to come in and get dragged into this. So we're going to be talking about a specific set of movies today, a genre, if you will. And James, what is that genre?
Well, thanks to our special guest star, the topic today is disaster movies.
Dun, dun, dun. Disaster movies. Like them or love them, they're all over the place. They seem to pop up all the time. Some are blockbusters, big hits. The most recent one I think just released was San Andreas.
Oh
Is
my
that
gosh.
right? Destroying our city once again. Every film's been about destroying San Francisco lately.
Seems like it.
All right, well, we're going to talk to Jennifer a little bit and get to know about these disaster films. So, Jennifer, tell these folks a little bit about yourself.
This is the part of the podcast, of course, that I call Why Should We Listen to You?
Yes. Why should we listen to you? Who are you? We've given them nothing to go on so far with ourselves.
I don't know if I can pull up a pretty compelling reason. But I don't know. I always loved disaster films. Some of the first films that I ever watched were disaster movies. My mom was a pretty big influencer. She loves disaster movies, so.
Do you remember the first one that you saw, or do you have like a memory of it?
Well, one of the first movies I watched was a National Geographic movie about volcanoes, which isn't a disaster movie, but I'd say my first major blockbuster disaster film was probably Twister.
Excellent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Great movie. Great
garbage.
movie.
And I'm sure we'll talk about that one in a little bit as well. Twister is excellent. So what about you? What's your background?
Oh man, I went to school. I studied geosciences with a museums concentration.
What?
So.
Geosciences?
Wow.
Yes.
What is that?
Oh man, what is that?
My little brain can't handle that.
I learned about rocks and about volcanoes and about earthquakes.
So this is right up your alley.
Yeah,
then.
this is pretty
It's all
up
making
my alley.
sense.
Yes.
We have an expert on hand.
Oh, I don't know if I'd call myself an expert.
Very good.
So we got to know you a little bit. So let's talk about these disaster films. So obviously you're a big fan, and I'm sure most of us have seen one at some point in our lives. So what goes into your typical disaster film? What are we seeing in these movies in common with them all?
Oh man, I don't know. Classic. Okay, if we're gonna talk classic elements,
Let's talk classic disaster.
Classic disaster films. I really like those natural disasters. I mean, if there's a volcano, if there's an earthquake, if there's a tornado, if there's a hurricane, all of those things, I think are really, really key components. We have some pretty creative outliers though. A couple really good films that, pull in something else.
Yeah. And James, are you a fan of this genre or any films in this genre?
It depends on the movie, right?
Okay.
Some of them are very good. We'll have a list of specifics later on, right? And some of them is just as formulaic as Ant-Man was, Some of those elements you see repeated ad nauseum that, yes, as intended, make me sick, And I have a couple, but I don't want to start that off right now. What do you think goes into them, Kyle?
So I think we talked about most of everything. That pretty much you gotta have some huge disaster, and usually there's some outlandish way of circumventing nature in some manner. But just Jennifer, I'm curious because not a lot of people say their favorite genre or favorite movies are disaster films. So what's so compelling about them to you?
I don't know. I think it's a really interesting perspective on the scientific process or the pseudo-scientific process. And, a lot of the films that we're going to be talking about, they kind of talk about, they have a knowledge that this event is going to happen, and there's at least one person who knows this is going to happen, and they're doing everything they can to stop it. Okay. Or there's an organization or someone trying to stop it, and they're getting a lot of flack from people. And then this event happens, and they're kind of sitting there like, I told you so. Like, I said that volcano would
As they
explode.
sink in the lava.
Yeah,
I told you all. Yeah, so yeah, I totally get that, and it's interesting because I think a lot of these movies are preying on people's fears of like these huge events, and they're not. Most of them aren't too common, so they want to portray this very special event happening on the screen. But I think what we get a lot of times is the spectacle, and then there's nothing left in the movies. The characters are way less interesting than the actual lava coming out of the volcano.
Yeah, you
itself.
could. I think it's interesting because there is typically a large kind of familial component. So you have families who are, you'll have a dad who's rushing off to save his son, or you'll have, a grandmother who is trying to save her family, or there's always some family component. And that to me is really, really interesting.
Or there's the dynamic typically of a broken family that gets healed by the disaster, right? Or a love that's fallen apart or on the verge of divorce that somehow is magically reunited. All the problems of you suck at communication, or I hate you, or you cheated on me, whatever it may be, are just forgiven magically because you pulled me across the crevice of the earthquake, right?
I have to say, like, there's something about having someone, pull me out of freezing Arctic waters. Like, I might fall in love with them. I don't know.
All over again.
All right. Yeah.
So and don't forget there's a dog involved, right?
There's always
the
a dog.
dog always lives. Millions may die, buildings fall over each other left and right, and the whole city's getting incarcerated. There's my dumb fucking moment. Every fucking podcast, I do something dumb. Entire cities get incinerated or desecrated, not incarcerated, stupid. But the dog lives, no? The dog always lives.
Lassie lives.
Very true.
Yeah, baby.
Very
Lassie.
true. Now, I must say that what you were talking about, the different families coming together, there's something, I think, inspiring about the fact that when these events do happen, people see the majesty of nature that maybe they've forgotten about. And maybe that does force people to think about what the real things in their life are, not their materialistic or the affair that they're having or whatever's going on. And they're like, oh my God, I get it now. Life is so precious. Volcanoes will kill us. I don't know why we're stuck on volcanoes right now. You mentioned
because they're great.
Earthquakes, tidal waves, all this crazy stuff. It all get really serious. So I think that's what they're trying to do in writing those stories.
Yeah, there's nothing like the hardest slap in the face of reality. Nothing like an asteroid, right?
Yeah,
Nothing like an impending asteroid to make you realize, oh fuck, maybe I wasted a lot of time worrying about what my shoes looked like and how how I was climbing the corporate ladder. God damn, that giant rock is gonna kill him.
I should have just bought him at Target.
You might say these movies have a pretty deep impact.
Oh my goodness. Segue in Excelsior. Okay, so let's talk about some outliers for a minute, since you brought up some of the most crazy events that can happen, right? These asteroids.
Or as I call them, Kyle, craziest. Get it? Most crazy? Anyways, grammar tangent. Moving on.
Okay, James.
All right, I actually know how to speak sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
All right.
Correct other people for sounding stupid. All right. Excellent. Okay, so we got Deep Impact, and almost at the same time, Armageddon's coming out and everything. So have you seen these two films, Jen?
Deep Impact and Armageddon?
Yes.
Of course I have.
And what are your thoughts on this rather rare circumstance?
Oh my gosh.
Or these movies in general? Do you think they were good overall? Were these good films?
It's funny. I grew up with Deep Impact. My family was a little bit more of a Deep Impact family than an Armageddon family.
There are only two types in the world.
There are two types of people, Two types of people. Deep Impact for me, it was such an emotional movie. It really focused on the emotion, and it really played on the feelings of these people and, the emotions they're going through as this giant rock is hurtling towards Earth. And I thought that was really, really, it was kind of compelling. The scene that really sticks out to me, and this is a scene that I will never forget it, I have nightmares about this scene, is just Téa Leoni and her character's father. They're like embracing on the beach, and this giant tidal wave is coming towards them. That scene has stuck in my mind my entire life.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I thought Deep Impact was really good at bringing the emotional side of what these big scenarios represent, and I thought that Armageddon was just overblown and completely
garbage,
ridiculous. Yeah, But Deep Impact stuck with me as well. Going back and watching it, there's a lot of, the film work of it and everything is, I think, subpar overall. But I did like that they took that really strong focus of the emotionality of these events and chose to focus on that. And it got pretty dark.
Yeah.
And a lot darker than some of the other things you see in these movies.
Yeah.
So.
See, I don't remember Deep Impact so much.
It obviously didn't have a deep impact on you.
No, I remember it being way better than Armageddon because Armageddon is absolute garbage. But I didn't want this podcast to end without mentioning the obvious about Armageddon. I'm sure this is out there on the internet in many other places, but just in case our listening audience hasn't pointed out or hasn't realized, Armageddon is Michael Bay, right?
Yeah.
Michael Bay bullshit. I classify this in the ways you should have done this instead of that. Train the astronauts to be drillers, not the other way around.
Oh my
the
God.
The minute any of those jerk off drilling guys gave you problems, you said, you know what? It's easier to give an astronaut who's an intelligent, obedient, upright citizen a crash course on drilling than vice versa. So what a huge fucking plot hole, Kyle and Jennifer.
Whoa.
Hey.
Are you you're throwing some serious shade on drillers there?
No, not drillers.
I know some incredible...
No.
I know some drillers.
Not drillers, not drillers.
Citizens.
Those drillers. I said the minute a driller gets out of control and starts going to strip clubs and acting like typical bug-eyed, goofy-looking Steve Buscemi types.
Whoa,
You get him the hell out of there and you bring in Buzz Aldrin.
Steve Buscemi.
He's all right. Sorry, Steve. No, you know what? No, sorry.
Great.
There's one thing about this, but I never apologize.
James, I'll apologize on behalf of myself.
All right, you do it. I'm
and
not.
James as
You know
well.
I won't.
Steve
Yes.
Buscemi, you're great.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, so let's talk
hot
about your favorite disaster movie.
my
Do you have a favorite?
It is, it's the worst, but it's the best.
Oh, so we'll talk about that
one is
phrase as well. But which one?
It's Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak!
Pierce Brosnan's Dante's Peak.
Pierce Brosnan's
Is that the official title? I don't know about that.
I mean, obviously you watch it for Pierce Brosnan.
Obviously, yes.
But it's such, oh man, I have seen that movie at least 50 times.
Excellent.
Wait, how many times did you see it in the theater?
In the theater, I was like 2 when it came out.
So not many.
Oh.
I guess I don't. No,
Maybe
it's just a question.
Someone's just a little sensitive about
No, it's a
being
question.
old.
We bounce this one off each other. No,
I didn't say it.
I never even saw it. It probably sucks.
No,
Tell us why it's your
I've
favorite,
seen
though.
Dante's Peak as well, but tell us why it's your favorite.
Tell us why.
Dante's Peak. That's one of the movies that I really have a fascination with volcanoes and volcanic eruptions, and that's really, I think, where that love got started. It has all of those classic elements. It has, the family component. You have Linda Hamilton and her children, and then there's that kind of budding love interest. You have people, you have scientists. It was one of the first movies and I watched this movie when I was quite young. It was one of the first movies that had, these real scientific processes happening. Like people are, out in the field and they're scaling the wall of this volcano, and, they have the helicopter and they have their rovers, and they're trying to warn people and people aren't listening. And then all of a sudden you have this massive eruption. Although I will say, I do believe that, obviously it's not realistic, but it's just the type of eruption that occurs in the film. Like, you have these lava flows, and then you have that major Plinian eruption, and that's not something that I think you would see realistically.
Yes.
Where is the volcano located
Major
in this movie?
Plinian eruption.
It's
I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, you might have to explain that. But first, tell me where the volcano is relative to the United States.
They don't specifically say, but you can kind of tell. It's like it's the Cascade Range, Washington.
Oh, is it? All right,
yeah,
right.
that kind of. It looks pretty similar to that area. I mean, you can draw comparisons to Mount St. Helens. There's a giant lake nearby.
So here's something I just heard in your description that I think is interesting, and I kind of feel like is exemplified in these movies, is that maybe people that don't get enough credit for their work, I would say if you told the common person or asked them, would you want to be a geologist? Does that sound like an exciting line of work? A lot of people would probably say a geologist, no thank you. But it gives these scientists that do really fascinating work a really big showcase in these films. So the work that they did was really important. Maybe they weren't given enough respect, and then look who's all mighty and powerful, the people that knew that this volcano was going to erupt and kill all of us.
Yeah, it kind of gives power to the scientists.
Nerd power.
Yeah,
Hey,
which we like a
all
lot.
about that.
All right, what else we got? What else do we have on our list,
So
Jennifer?
let's talk about volcano again for a minute, because I think you dropped volcano in there as well, or you said a volcano, and I'm thinking of the
movie.
counterpart to Dante's Peak. Yeah, we've got volcano.
The
as
obvious
well.
counterpart.
Yes, with Tommy Lee Jones and saving everyone from the volcano using.
I can't even.
Say it.
What did he use?
With the avalanche.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh,
I didn't see
He
it.
created an avalanche
Oh,
to save
about
people
that
from
part.
the volcano, which
How did he create an avalanche?
it like blew something up. I can't even remember. It was not one that sticks out in my mind too well, besides just looking at this massive ice sheet coming down and the lava just hitting it and being like, oh, ice, no, and then saved everybody.
Oh my god.
And I think that's where we get these kind of stereotypes in here, where these disaster films are just these big spectacles with no substance. And I think they can be good, like you said. I think we have a lot of opportunities for them to be good, have that emotion and that character-driven story around these events.
Like, that's okay. I kind of take back what I said earlier about Dante's Peak. I mean, it's a little bit more realistic than the movie Volcano. I mean, you have, because no, but in all seriousness, a lot of, you know, the devastation that we see after volcanic eruptions come from the melting of the ice that's on the volcano. You have these massive mud flows. That's a lot of the devastation. We do see that in Dante's Peak. So I think it is, it could be done a little bit better. And of course, I don't have my PhD in geology, so I'm probably wrong, but...
You still are expert.
In this room,
Yeah.
one person knows more
one
about
out of
rocks
3 people in
than the
this room.
others.
Yeah.
So I will say, I'll hand it to Dante's Peak for, you know, adding that element to the eruption, because I think that's a very important component, and the pyroclastic flow.
Oh,
I can't
yes,
get over it.
pyroclastic flow, yes,
That's-
which I too cannot get over.
That was my first
and
word.
I definitely know what it is.
Pyroclastic
That was not
flow.
your
That was your
first
first
word.
word?
That was
Wow.
my first word.
It will go down in history as the first word, at least. So one of the things I want to talk about really briefly before we talk about some of the other specific movies is the nature of disaster films now showing up in very, I don't want to say cheesy, but cheesy and terrible venues. Like a lot of what we have on the Sci-Fi Channel now and some of these areas. We have disaster movies almost being self-parodied to the point of, I think that it's detracting from some of the good ones that we have. But have you seen any of these Sharknadoes or
man.
any of these types of films recently?
How could one miss Sharknado?
I missed it.
Oh, James.
I saw
boy.
it. All 3.
All right, go ahead and talk about it.
So let's
Just-
talk about them for a minute. What do you think?
I just,
Being a disaster film fan, what do you think about these shark tornadoes
oh my god.
devastating our countryside?
Devastating our countryside. You know, it's really interesting. I think that the whole morphing, you know, these animalistic natural disasters, one might say that there is some scientific proof that something like that could happen. I mean, there was a shark, the body of a shark found 2 miles inland on, you know, some event where that happened. Someone discovered a shark 2 miles inland. So I would venture to guess that there could be some validity.
And what
to
about
these-
the frog rains that happen every
Frog
once in a while?
rains.
Those are
Yeah.
legit. It rains frogs in some places every now
I'm
and then.
going to have to vouch for it. And I mean, the acting, the superior acting qualities.
Are you
Tara Reid, my God,
Are
give
you-
that woman an Oscar.
are you out of your fucking mind?
I think there was
these
some
movies-
facetious
Okay.
commentary
What?
going on.
Now I
Never.
feel like I'm being baited. You got the fucking that reject from Beverly Hills 90210 flying around with chainsaws. I only know that because I'm pretty sure that became a meme or whatever you want to call it on the internet.
Yes, one of those
Tara
internet
Reid-
memes.
Tara Reid
yes.
is another completely washed up All right,
she
Sharknado, whatever.
You might compare her to Marilyn Monroe. She's the new Marilyn Monroe.
Okay, well,
An American classic.
What I've seen, okay, I'm gonna drop another one
classic.
here.
She's American Pie, no mas. Oh, Spanish right there.
I'm gonna drop another one here. One that I just watched tip to stern just the other day. Loudontheset. Loudontheset, the new film in the series of natural disasters involving animals somehow. The spiritual cousin to Sharknado was just released. And I watched it, and I have to say, I enjoyed myself. Now, I enjoyed myself way more than I did watching the Sharknadoes, though they were almost identical films, and I will tell you why. Because Sharknado, in its creation, was this B film that was supposed to exemplify just B movies. And it was just supposed to be that and be as over the top as it could possibly be. On the flip side of that coin, Loudontheset just came out, and it did something really interesting, which was it meta'd the whole idea of these outlandish disaster films with the Sharknadoes and everything, and put you in a universe where all the people were kind of playing themselves in this scenario, and it was really interesting and curious how they put the self-referential nature of these films into the actual production of them making the movie. So I am going to encourage anybody who is even remotely interested in the Sharknado type films to go and see Loudontheset, or to, I guess you don't have to go anywhere, just sit on your couch and watch it somehow.
Kyle, did you cut a deal on the side with somebody that you're plugging this?
Loudontheset, brought to you by
Loudontheset? Like, what is this? Have you sold out?
No,
Have you sold out?
Can I just say?
Yes.
Can I just say? He texted me about this movie. He typed out the word Loudontheset, and I replied Gesundheit because I thought he
joked about
sneeze.
Thought I was sneezing.
I
yes.
had no idea.
No, but as a disaster
gem.
movie person,
what a gem.
And somebody who can like and appreciate the outlandish nature of these, there are some still creative filmmaking ideas that they're putting into this system.
All right, can I
Yes.
say something? I'm getting muscled out of this conversation by fucking spiders and volcanoes and shit.
They were
I would
amazing.
like to present to the listening audience and my
Okay.
two friends here one of my favorite disaster movies.
Say it ain't
Oh.
In
so.
fact, I have two.
James has a
Gas.
favorite disaster
I have a favorite
film.
something. Wow.
Oh my God.
Who'd have thought, right?
Let's think.
The first one is Independence Day. Right?
Okay.
That was one of the earliest ones for me. Like, wow, what movie other than Independence Day handled destruction on such a massive scale, a global scale? Sure, we had earthquake in the 80s and stuff like that, which I didn't even see, but I know of it, right? But Independence Day was one of the earliest movies I can remember hearing the other theaters experiencing it when I was in a downtime. You know, like during the downtimes of Independence Day, when all the destructions happened, I could hear the other theaters experiencing it. And I was like, holy shit, they're going through what I just went through 5 minutes ago. Crazy. The second one that I really thought was great was Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Oh my God.
What is your problem?
Get out.
Interesting.
The-
What is
Okay.
your-
No,
Neither
your
of
problem?
those are okay, so I guess I should have prefaced I'm thinking natural disasters, and as much as I love Independence Day,
Oh, you do?
I mean, my God, Jeff Goldblum.
Who doesn't? We need an entire
Goldblum.
podcast
That man.
devoted to Jeff Goldblum.
There
by the
it.
way.
There.
He's the typical running around like trying to warn everybody. Yeah.
He is
Good
a
stuff.
national treasure.
Okay.
I adore him.
I do too. Absolutely.
I'll set up a meeting. I know
Okay,
a guy. I know a guy. I'll get in there.
I too enjoy Independence Day. It's not the greatest film, but it certainly is a spectacle,
Yeah,
and
it was-
it's fun to watch. Terminator 2 is an interesting choice because I would beg to argue that it is a natural disaster film in the event that we brought it upon ourselves, and the natural disaster is our creation of the artificial intelligence that goes into what then becomes the destruction of the world.
I like it. Well, see, I lump it in here because, to me, one of the classic elements, cycling back to that, of a disaster movie is that one scene, right? In Independence Day, it's when the ships open fire, right? And they blow up everything from the White House to the Empire State Building and so on. And you're blown away by that special effects. I'm sure in Dante's Peak, it was when the fucking volcano blew up, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't
That
tell you.
volcano.
Anyway, there's a singular moment in the
No,
movie,
it was
right?
the moment where Pierce Brosnan showed up.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody went,
'Cause it's-
oh my
No,
god!
the first scene, the open.
Name over the
Exactly.
title, right? And so Independence Day has it. Terminator 2 has it. When they show the nuclear weapons going off and obliterating everybody, that was groundbreaking special effects and really impactful. And so I make my case.
Okay.
Anyway.
I don't know.
The geologist, to you.
Take it, rock girl.
Ooh, rock girl. You know, I don't know. I gotta say, I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist when it comes to my disaster movies. Like I would classify those two movies in a completely separate category.
Okay,
I mean,
fair enough.
You know, Independence Day, that's an alien movie to me.
Okay.
Terminator, that's kind of more of a robot movie. You know, it's like you know, artificial intelligence, I would put those in separate categories. I mean, I'm not, you know, Independence Day, I certainly wouldn't debate the quality of that movie. Terminator 2,
And if we're looking at disaster films in the position of these spectacles of destruction, I think then you have a solid.
All right. Well, point conceded. Touche,
Right.
touche, or as the French say, touchy. Moving on.
Moving on. Okay, so let's go back to, first of all, I want to hit one of the ones that I saw actually in the theater, and it was very polarizing, the response to Day After Tomorrow. So where do you fall on the spectrum of Day After Tomorrow appreciation?
oh man, I you know,
We understand.
I don't know whether to love it or I'm kind of in that middle, that kind of nebulous, like it satisfied the urge or that hunger for a disaster movie. You know, it was kind of something that we'd never really seen before necessarily, just that climate change, the notion of climate change and the notion of, you know, we have created this completely realistic situation, and it has very, very real consequences. And I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, it has those components that we look for. It has, you know, the family element. You know, you have...
Did it have a dog?
I'm
had some CGI
sure there was
wolves
a dog.
that were brilliant.
Oh, the wolves.
They were terrible.
That was pretty bad, I will say.
Well, my opinion of Day After Tomorrow is I got about 15, 20 minutes into the movie and I stopped watching it. It was my living room equivalent of The Walkout, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about.
Separate.
But I couldn't make it through it. I could not.
So I watched it tip to stern, and I left disappointed but appreciative overall because of what you said, Jen, of the idea that this was a look on a real natural disaster that could potentially happen at some point, just in the idea of climate change, the changing climate being our destruction or our downfall, and the science behind it, the scientists running around and trying to figure everything out. I liked that idea a lot. I thought the execution was a little bit lacking, but I liked the idea of the movie, and I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean it was new. I mean it was new. It was kind of a little bit of a revelation. I will say the timeline. I mean, the sped up timeline of having these, you know, glacial winters coming. You know,
It's a little quick.
Let's be real. You know, and it's not the best movie, but I like the idea behind it, you know?
Definitely. And speaking of liking the idea behind a film, let's get to your first one that you remember.
Yeah.
And that is The Twister.
Oh,
So
Twister.
what do you like about Twister?
Oh my gosh.
Besides everything.
What
You
is
gotta
there-
narrow
what
it
is
down
there-
a little bit.
Kyle, the real question is, what is there not to like
That's a good
about
question.
Twister?
Let's ask James. James, what do you not
How
like
about
about Twister?
surviving? How about surviving F5 force winds by holding onto a fucking leather belt on a?
What, you don't
Was
think
he
that's...
Superman at the end of the movie?
They bought that belt at Nordstrom. It was quality.
The same
Nordstrom, quality, you can trust.
This is product placement.
The same tornado that's threatening to throw your sharks and shit hundreds of miles inland that you're so scared of.
We've got cows.
But at the end, the guy survives it by hanging onto a leather strap tied to a pipe. He should have been ripped right out of his arm sockets. You know, like, unbelievable. Plus, his acting sucked throughout that whole movie. But anyway.
Okay, so let's go with
Who's the... Helen Hunt? Is she the...
Helen Hunt,
And,
one of my
what's his fucking name?
Bill Paxton.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, that's like the best movie that, in terms of natural destruction that I remember and that I recall. I really liked the idea of the whole film. And funny enough, it was actually co-written by big name in sci-fi and lots of kind of destruction, Michael Crichton.
Oh.
Co-wrote the screenplay to the film.
Wow.
And I was actually kind of
boy.
disappointed because he...
Didn't the movie feature like dueling scientific teams? Like
Yes.
one of them was, oh my God, one of them was set up to be like the good guy scientific team that plays the tornado chasing game by the book, where the other guys are like rogue and
The douchey bro.
Yeah, like does this come on?
Which-
Well, fucking dumb.
Those are real tropes, I will say.
Oh yeah, that
In
happens.
Tornado Chasing, do you know
That
these
happens?
people?
In science.
In science, yes, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I don't know what to say about that.
Okay, so I like Twister. There's the screenplay itself had a lot of silly moments, but I did like the realistic spectacle on the screen, and I liked the ideas that were presented in it. You like Twister? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one of the first disaster films that I remember watching, and you know, to be truthful, out of all of the natural disasters that could happen, the one that I'm most fearful of in my real life, IRL, are tornadoes.
IRL, what was that?
In
real life.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
someone is dated.
To paraphrase James on another podcast, you might see a generational gap here.
Yeah. Or here, a generational gap.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, those are definitely a very real and terrifying, yeah.
Show up out of nowhere. I mean, you're from the Midwest. You must have had those things like spinning around all
Oh
the
yeah,
fucking
those
time.
sirens grew just brought fear in people's hearts.
In Ohio?
And I usually slept through them the whole time.
In
Yeah.
Ohio,
Oh
yeah?
yeah, there were some in Ohio. Yeah.
I was in
big
Massachusetts
ones in Ohio.
once, and I was on a bus, mind you, and there was a tornado warning, and I literally flipped my shit. I walked up to the bus
Literally.
driver. I was like, "We need to pull this bus over. There's a tornado warning." The responses I got were quite typical. which
Well,
you might expect.
what natural disasters have you experienced?
Oh,
that's
We talk about
that's a
which one is your
great
favorite
question.
movie. We've talked about which one are you most fearful of. But Kyle, we'll go around the mic here. Kyle, what natural disasters, or the closest you've come to experiencing one?
The closest I've ever come to any of them have been tornadoes. So I think that's interesting. Maybe that something we're looking at in the disaster movies, something that's impactful is something that's close to home. And seeing that spectacle up on the screen brings you into that world because it's something that you fear greatly. So tornadoes are the closest I've ever come.
Tornadoes.
What about
Alright,
you, Jen?
Jennifer?
Earthquakes. Living in California my whole life, I've felt my fair share of earthquakes. Studying geology, we've gotten up close to some pretty impressive volcanoes, but
Wow.
That's awesome.
I'd say earthquakes.
Very cool. Yeah, and to clarify, I've been through a couple earthquakes, but I slept through them and had no idea. So that doesn't count.
Novice.
I've experienced multiple hurricanes.
Whoa.
Wow.
I've seen twisters over the ocean while I was doing
Mm-hmm.
marine work and stuff like that. Survived Hurricane Katrina when it passed through Miami, Florida. A lot of people don't know that it passed through Miami first as a Category 1 and then went on its rampage.
Wow.
Yeah. Survived being a very relative term there. And yeah, earthquakes, of course, now here in California, but in Ecuador, where I, of course, bought a lot of bootleg movies.
And another tease on the bootleg movies. But let's go just back to...
Oh, and blizzards.
in
Huge blizzards.
Really?
Yeah, New York. We get. I was
Oh,
born in
yeah.
a blizzard.
I
actually.
forgot. You were born in
Really?
a blizzard. Yeah,
Brooklyn.
okay.
No, I seriously was. Yeah.
No, I know.
And like the snowstorms that hit New York like a year ago and 2 years ago and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
Snowpocalypse, Snowmageddon.
Oh, didn't
Polar
they nickname one of them
vortex.
recently? Yeah. Oh, Jesus
That's
Christ.
something natural disaster movies are lacking. The stupid news headline that
Yeah.
sensationalizes it.
Oh, man.
Absolutely.
No.
Okay, well, we are all out of time today. So, just in a wrap up of what we're talking about, disaster movies. Jen, you're a big fan. You like them a lot. I think they can be made pretty well. I think there's a lot of good ideas. The force of nature being presented in these movies, putting a good screenplay behind it, and adding in the emotion of what those things represent builds one of these good disaster films. And what about you, James?
I
Where do you
agree.
stand?
I agree, and I especially like Kyle's point of, similar to the disaster that was Jurassic World. The minute that you replace actual screenplay and character development with just spectacle.
Right.
Imagine if a movie was nothing but CGI footage of fucking avalanche sliding into a volcanic eruption.
Imagine. We
Why-
don't have to, because it's called Volcano.
Okay, yeah, well, all right, so that sucks.
Yeah.
But other ones are pretty well made, right? Jennifer?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Oh man, there's so many different movies to choose from. I don't know. I could talk all day about volcano movies, earthquake movies, disaster movies.
Excellent. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2
I
sometime.
think we may.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening today. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on the show, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Thank you for tolerating us for a couple minutes. And be sure to check out our other podcasts. We've done a lot now. We got some reviews, some fun guests that come on, and then you get to hear a little bit about James and I, which, yeah, I guess that's cool too.
The best part.
All right. So thanks again. Go out and see some good disaster movies and enjoy them.
See you later.
And cut.